It's really hard as educational leaders to try to balance how do we stretch and grow teachers and cultivate an environment where the importance is on learning. We have to change our mindset about what a feedback conversation looks like. If you have any negative adjective associated with your feedback conversations, you got to call a timeout. And it is not about me. It's not about any one person. It's not about the leader in the building. We got to get out of our way. It is about those teachers. You need to know what's important to that teacher. You need to know what matters. You need to know where they're spending their time. And because you're only in there for a short window of time, you need to give them the opportunity to share with you those celebrations. There's so much out there that's negative about education. And you guys, great things happening in our classroom every day. And the leaders that are in the classroom, we've got to find it. We've got to celebrate it. And we've got to put it out there and let those teachers know they matter and what they're doing is greatness. Hi, welcome to the Learning and Leadership Podcast. You know, we constantly hear about the state of retention that's taking place in our schools, how our schools are so challenged with getting teachers in the classroom. You know, it's really hard as educational leaders to try to balance how do we stretch and grow teachers and cultivate an environment where the importance is on learning, but still balance those conversations where people feel appreciated and the culture is there. Because honestly, administrators, we're concerned. We don't want the teachers leaving the profession. So how can we have those conversations, appreciate teachers, live in the stretch, and still have student learning that's improving daily? You know, when we think about all of the educators that's coming into the profession today, they're coming from the traditional educational background. They're coming from the workforce. Some of them had no experience whatsoever, and they're coming into the classroom. And it's critical that we have a stretch environment where teachers are learning. We're supporting them in a way that allows them to grow in the profession of education. But it's a balance. The balance comes between the growth and motivation, that lifelong learning piece, and then creating a learning culture for our students where they can thrive, they can grow educationally. So each time we meet on this podcast, we're going to narrow our focus. My focus is about 3, 2, 1. It's about 3 points that we're going to address for what our major topic is. We're going to have 2 questions, and then we're going to have a quote. And I'm certainly always going to leave you with an action item because quite honestly, I can't help myself because I believe it's where the rubber meets the road. We got to walk our talk, and it's about taking action to our learning. So let's start with our 3 points. What are the 3 ways that we can truly create a feedback environment that allows our culture to flourish? And I know sometimes that's even a crazy statement. Feedback, flourishing environment, but it can happen because we have to flip the script on feedback. We have to change our mindset about what a feedback conversation looks like. And that's where you start. Point number 1. You guys, feedback conversations are not about us, the leaders. Feedback conversations are about the person we are interacting with. It's about us learning. How many times do I say I in a conversation when it should be all about the person I'm talking to? It's about not telling them what to do, but learning about the opportunity. It's about reflection. You know, when I'm sitting here thinking about point number 1, it's about learning from the person. I got to stop and call a timeout right now. I need to let every single person know, especially early in my career, I humbly apologize. And I promise I mean that from the bottom of my heart because I left a wake that was horrific. You know, I left the classroom and went into administration. I got a leadership opportunity and I had in my mind, I was changing the world. I was going to turn education upside down. I was going to create and transform and bring learning environments that were so amazing and so incredible. And just right now, how many times have I said the word I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it is not about me. It's not about any one person. It's not about the leader in the building. We got to get out of our way. It is about those teachers. And once I started thinking about, I need to make it about the teacher and how can I create an environment where that teacher is learning, that teacher's reflecting on their own practice, you guys, That's where greatness happens. Because listen, the smartest people in the building are the ones in those classrooms. And collectively, the environment is rich. It is full of so much brightness. So feedback conversations about the learning for you. It's not telling them, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. It's about asking questions. So point number one, the learning is flip that script. It's all about asking questions and learning. And you know what? There's bonuses to this all day long. The bonuses are the relationships, they're going to exponentially flourish. The relationships are going to go up because people are going to be like, you're listening. Wait, you're asking me? You're trying to learn more about my practice, how I think, how I learn. It's going to be a game changer. I promise. You got to trust it. And like I said, don't go through the hard knocks that I did. Don't leave the wake that I did. Really trust the process and create these wonderful, rich learning environments. Ask questions to learn. Point number two, let's talk logistics and time. All right. First of all, time. You visit a classroom, you talk to a teacher, you have a meeting with the teacher. You've got to converse immediately. You've got to take the time immediately to give that feedback. Listen, the first time you walk into a classroom with a teacher, they're already going to be like, I wonder what they think. I wonder what's going through their mind. I wonder what they're seeing. I wonder what their questions are. The teacher's head's going to be spinning. Be cognizant of that. Take the time to give the feedback immediately. Secondly, it's about turf and time. Okay, we've got to go to them. How many times have you sent an email? Hey, come by my office, 3:00. Come by my office during your conference. Right then and there, we have exponentially elevated the anxiousness of that teacher. Okay, it's like getting called to the office. Think about it for your students. All right, we need to put a time out on that. We need to change it. Okay, time and turf. Let's invest the time. It's about them. Go to them. Give them the time. And then celebrate first. Be very specific, and everything that we talk about needs to be connected to the instructional goals. We need the celebrations to be about the instructional priorities. So think about it. If you're giving that teacher that feedback, you want to say, listen, I am really impressed with the collaborative conversations your students were having. Your students were using complete sentences. Your students were using the academic language. Celebrate it. Celebrate them first and be very specific. Make the instruction the priority. All right. And then point number three, as you talk to that teacher and as you're celebrating that teacher, we need to stop and say, hey, tell me what I missed. Think about how many times somebody visited you or they've had a conversation, they've been in your classroom, and they come right in and they celebrate you. We always hear celebrate 2 things, celebrate 3 things, sandwich the celebrations between the stretch. I'm not concerned as much about that as I am. Your celebration needs to be authentic. But when you give the celebration that's authentic and specific, the next thing that's most important, you need to just ask them, you know what, when I was in your classroom today, what were you hoping that I celebrated? What were you hoping that I saw? That allows that teacher to say, you know what? You just missed the moment. You should have seen this collaboration that was going on. You should have seen the station work. Oh, you should have seen that science lab the students did yesterday. Or sometimes there's that little student, maybe like the little Lisa student that was in class, that's been a behavior problem, or that student that does not dialogue with the kids in class, does not contribute. And suddenly on one day, that student had something to say. Those are the little celebrations. You need to know what's important to that teacher. You need to know what matters. You need to know where they're spending their time. And because you're only in there for a short window of time, you need to give them the opportunity to share with you those celebrations, those opportunities. So now we're at the 2 questions. It's about reflection. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. And you guys, if we get to a place where we're asking enough questions of our teachers, we're creating that transfer to the teachers, that reflection piece, the learning's going to exponentially go on even when you're not there. That's true leadership. That is the ripple effect as they go, continuous learning. So my first question is, tell me what evidence do I have that these feedback conversations are making a difference? And do I have teachers looking forward to the conversations? Are they sending me emails? Are they sending me pictures? Are they saying, oh, you've got to come see this? When you start getting that type of interaction with your teachers, you know you are right there. You're in that relationship mode. You're in that critical learning mode. You know, we want our teachers to transfer the ownership to students. You guys as leaders, we've got to transfer the ownership of growth to the individuals we work with. That's leading. That's leading. Question number 2, it's about them. So what evidence do I have that my conversations with others are about them? How many times do I use the word I? Or how many times do I ask, what did you do when you were planning today? How did you make that planning? What was your plan? Let me see. I've got to think. See, we got to work on our questions, right? It's got to be a thought process. So my question will be, talk to me how you plan for Check for Understanding with your students. Because I'm sure they did. Think about how many times you're planning a lesson and it didn't go like you wanted. I remember all the times that I'd have 6, 7 period days and I'd get to first period class and I planned this amazing lesson and I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be the best lesson ever. And it tanked. But then I tweaked it a little bit. Second period, I did a little bit better. By 6th and 7th period, I was rocking and rolling because I knew the places that were going to be interactions for the students. I knew the places that the students would have misconceptions or have more questions, but I was learning as I was going. I need to really apologize to all my first period and second period classes over my career, right? Because I got better. It's the same for teachers. They may have grand plans and the lesson just goes off the rails. Okay. So make it about them. Ask them about the process. Ask them how they're tweaking that. But ask yourself, what evidence do I have? The questions in those reflection conversations, how have I transferred the ownership and made it about those teachers? My quote for today comes from Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck has done so much about the growth mindset, and I think it's critical. A lot of times we throw around and postulate about these words in educanese, and we have these buzzwords, but a growth mindset really matters. And you can tell a difference when a person has a growth mindset, right? You know it. You're gravitating to it. All leaders gravitate to people with a growth mindset. Carol Dweck says, in a growth mindset, challenges are exciting. They're not threatening. Think about that. Think about your conversations, the feedback conversations you have. Do your teachers feel threatened by them? Are they uneasy about them? Are they nervous about them? If you have any negative adjective associated with your feedback conversations, you got to call a timeout. You got to call a timeout and be reflectful about the words you're using, because these conversations, lifelong learning, should be exciting. Lifelong learning should be joyful. Interacting with a peer and another leader should be exhilarating. Carol goes on to say, so rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to reveal my weaknesses, you say, wow, there's a chance to grow. And a feedback conversation should be celebrating the gifts of these teachers. We start with the celebrations, the gifts, the strengths, the richness of that teacher in the classroom, and grow from there, not picking out that minute little detail that's a weakness. Start with their giftings. If we model conversations of giftedness and the strengths of our teachers, they're going to start finding the strengths and the gifts of their students. Wow. Now the learning exponentially can take off. Light bulb moments. So our reflection for today are 3 points. Point number 1, ask questions. It's all about them. It's not about us. How many times do you use I in the conversation? Ask questions, learn more, because you're trying to find the baseline of their learning, the baseline of where you can support them. Ask questions. Number 2, time and turf. You got to give them your time. You got to give them the lean. You got to listen. You got to learn. And turf, go to them. It's not about you. It's not about your office. It's not about that huge desk of separation. Slide on in there to that old school student desk, squeeze yourself in it, and invest the time and be on their turf, because they've got their materials there with them. Immediate, authentic, and on their turf. And number 3, What did you miss? What celebrations did you miss? Allow them an open opportunity to tell you what should be the celebration. I can't help myself every single time. I just got to tell you, I'm all about the action. I said that at the very beginning. What are we going to do with our learning? Learning should be about behavior change. What have I done to change my behavior based on this stretch, this moment? So our action item this week, let's take some time to think about feedback. I'm challenging everybody to intentionally go to that teacher, go to them on their space, and then think of what's your first question you're going to ask them. And I'd start with, what did I miss on the celebrations? What do you want to tell me about that you're celebrating? You're doing the happy dance about this week, because we have those happy dance moments and we need to allow them to share it. You guys, I'm Lisa Spain, and my mission is to create a bandwidth for leaders so they have the space to lead and learn. I want everybody to have the space to lead and learn continuously, to relish in that moment. My goal with these podcasts are to create a network of like-minded people. I want to surround myself with people that enrich my life, and I'm blessed with so many. I've worked with thousands of educators and business leaders across North America, and my goal is to share these rich learnings that I've had, to give back, to serve others in a way that people have shared with me. I'm so passionate about what I do. I love it. I get emotional just thinking about it. There's so much out there that's negative about education. And you guys, great things happening in our classroom every day. And the leaders that are in the classroom, we've got to find it. We've got to celebrate it. And we've got to put it out there and let those teachers know they matter and what they're doing is greatness, So today, we're going to keep finding ways that we can learn and grow with each other. And that's what this is about. Anything in this podcast, if it resonates with you, please reach out. You guys are the reason that I learn and grow. It's the people that I surround myself with. They stretch me constantly. Let's connect. Let's learn together. If there's anything that was a catalyst for your change, I want to hear about it. Any other topics you want to talk about, questions? Because you guys, when we band together and we work together to solve these challenges, anything can be accomplished. There's a link in the show notes. So let me hear from you. Let's grow our learning and leadership together.